Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and today I'm here with a little bit of a make, to be honest. It's inspired by Tim Holtz. I will go through all of the details with you. I'm sure it's not a new idea, in fact I can guarantee it's not a new idea, but I thought it may be new to somebody. Okay, Tim Holtz used to produce these. I think there was another. In fact, there is another one. There may be more than one of these, and they're Tim Holtz collage papers. He no longer does them in tubes. I believe he does them in sheets now. Now, this tube contains 6 yards or 5.49 meters, okay, of this collage tissue. When it first came out, I really wanted it, but it's not the cheapest product in the world, let's put it that way. And I thought, you know what, I only want to try it. I don't want 6 yards of the stuff. So I chose not to buy it. However, Christmas before last, a friend of mine bought me these two as actual Christmas present, which was lovely. So if you want to look at what they look like, this is what they look like. Okay, now this is the extent of the pattern. Okay, and then this pattern is, actually if I do it that way you might be able to see it better. There you go. This is the extent of the pattern. And what happens is when you get to here, it then repeats and repeats and repeats. So this is all I'm looking at pattern wise. Now, I love it. I use it. But as I said, I don't need 6 yards of the stuff. I mean, that's a lot. So I thought, okay, how would I, if I was on a budget, how would I do these? So I decided to make my own. Okay, that proves the point. I can come up with something that's very, very similar to it. That's probably a little more uniquely mine. So I'm going to tell you how I did this, and I know you've got ahead of me. You know it's stamping and stuff like that, but I do have a few tips along the way. Now, what I would say is, at this point in the video, this is a reference for you. And what I would say is either pause the video or screenshot this so you know what we're looking at, okay? Because I'm going to put this to one side in a moment, just so you will probably not see it again. So there you go, so that's that. The technique I'm going to show you, I will also explain alternatives to it as well. Now, first thing I would suggest is, we've got stamps. Most of us have got stamps. I can't be all encompassing. So go through all of your stamps, rubber stamps, cling stamps, whatever stamps you've got, even foam stamps, because I know PM Artist Studio has got things that are foam stamps of insects. Go through your stamps and pull out anything that is vaguely reminiscent of what is on here. I would say if you've got Tim Holtz stamps, then definitely pull those out because some of them are bound to be based on that. Now, before we go any further, let's explain one thing here. We're creating our own collage paper inspired by Tim Holtz. I believe these products are meant for personal use only, not to be replicated, not to be sold. They're for personal use only. All I'm saying is I'm going to show you how to make something very similar. But remember, there is always copyright involved. So if you're using something like this and you're selling it, read the packaging or contact, who are they? Ranger, I believe it is, and double check because I'm sure you're not supposed to be selling it. And when you create your own, yes, you've created your own version of it. However, you do not own the copyright for all of these stamps. So this is purely for my sake. Cover my butt here. This is for personal use only, for your enjoyment, and for those of you who are on a budget or maybe are just starting out, this will give you an idea, a taster of something you can play with, and we'll talk about alternatives as we go along. So let's just go through a few of the stamps I pulled out. So I've happened to have a couple of text stamps from Tim Holtz. Now, I don't normally keep my stamps in their groups. I put them in these are called jewel cases. They're meant for CDs or DVDs, and when I find them on the internet, I look for jewel, Jewel cases without the insert. So there's normally there'd be a bit that clips in here that has the piece that holds a disc in. You can get them without it, okay? And that's what these are. And I I cannibalize my stamps into groups. So this is signatures, this is words, this is sayings. You'll see as I go along. So go through your stamps and go, is there anything here that might work here? Yes, there's some handwriting signatures. There's stuff here that's handwriting. I might be able to use that. This one here, this has got some sort of fancy-ish sort of fonts and words. I could use that. I mean, that might make up for things like, let's see, stuff like this, that maybe I don't have a stamp that covers that, but it gives me something that's an alternative to that. Again, phrases or sayings. There's wording on here. Nobody cares what the wording is, so maybe use a couple of your favourite sentiments and put them on there. Again, words. Now this sign here, I can't remember who it's from. I have no idea who my stamps are from. I've been collecting them for years. This is a really nice stylized looking stamp. I hope you can see it. That would work really well in here as well. There's more text because there's quite a lot of text on here. Now, I don't have a stamp that gives me type text. Okay, I've only got stamps that give me written text. So just be aware that I'm going to substitute those for this. Things like tickets and that, these can be smaller details you can put into this. If you've got anything like this, anything like a frame stamp, these work really well. I mean, if you look here, there's a frame there. This could be classed as a frame. There's lines here and there's lines here. So I don't have that stamp. So you know what, maybe that one will go there instead. Just be inspired by what you've got. Okay, I've got postage stamps and numbers. Well, there's stuff here that is definitely postal franking, and I've got numbers. I don't have numbers that size, but you may have. Again, this is a bullet journal stamp. I will say that's from Stamperia, to be honest with you. Why that stuck in my mind, I don't know. But that could easily replace something like that or that. These are large red rubber number letters. Pity I don't have the numbers, but you know what? There's letters here. I could duplicate those if I want. Again, now this is a Tim Holtz one. Obviously, a lot of the stuff in here will be very similar in style to what's on here. And if you look, Form LA34, Form LA34. Although this is small, that's large. So just be aware that maybe the Tim Holtz stuff has something that's definitely in the same style as, actually, 1257, is that on there? So I just had a feeling I've seen this number somewhere. Maybe this is the number I'm thinking of. Look at all the insects you've got. I mean, this is a big butterfly. I have no idea, absolutely no idea where this butterfly comes from. But, I mean, on here they've got insects and moths and things like that. I mean, see what you've got. I mean, I've got, oh, there's a bee and a dragonfly in there. There's smaller insects in here. There's a deathwatch beetle, a deathwatch moth there. Whatever that thing's called, it's a death skull moth or something like that. That would replace that. Again, these are just some stamps. I believe these might have been Tracy Fox. Not sure. I think Tracy Fox's stamps are no longer available unless you can find them with an already stocked retailer, because the company that produced them has unfortunately gone out of business, which is very sad because I really love Tracy's stamps. But I've got the set, thank goodness. You might find them somewhere if you did a good search. But things like this here is a really good one. These pieces here, good. So as you can see, I pulled out all of my stamps. I'm going to put them to one side. You watch me knock them over in a minute. So once you've got your stuff, we now need to think about what are we going to stamp on. As I put this to the one side, because I'm going to repeat this one. Okay, not going to repeat that one. I'm going to duplicate this one because you've seen both of them now. You know what they look like. So I have done mine on gift wrap tissue. The reason I want gift wrap tissue is because when I actually use it for collage or in my art journal, if I'm using a wet glue on here or a wet medium, the white will disappear and the whole thing will, the only bit that should be seen is the black stamping. Now, if you use wet strength tissue, which is a more robust tissue, if you did the same thing, if you use a wet glue or a medium on it, what would happen is it would fade slightly into the background, but I doubt you get rid of all of the background. So just know there are reasons. Now, I have literally used gift wrap tissue from my local grocery store. I'm sure you've seen it. It comes in packs this size, and then you unfold the sheets. So I'm going to pull a piece of this out. What's that stuck on there? Let's pull a piece out that's not got something stuck on it, shall we? Right, you'll do. Now, I want to talk about tissue paper before we get into this. Now, I am assuming, I haven't got any, I'm assuming you could do this with deli paper, you could do this with lots of different papers. Just, it's up to you what you want the transparency to be. It's also up to you as to what you can get hold of where you are. Now, for me, I'm always wary of gift wrap tissue. Some of it has a coating on one side. Now, this side, I'm not sure you're going to be able to see it, is matte. This side, however, has a slight sheen to it, or a coating. You will sometimes find that if you get gift wrap tissue that's meant to be for flowers, you'll find one side is coated. So try and find out which is matte. Now, if I rub my fingers over this, I can feel this side is slightly textured. So that's going to be the side I stamp on. Right, I want to cut this edge off here. Just take a bit of scissors down that. You could potentially do this on napkin backs. You know, when you take the back off a napkin, one of the layers or the plies, you could do that method on one of those, and then when you put that onto your collage or your art journal page, it would also go transparent. Now, I don't worry about the fold lines in this, because when I'm putting matte medium down or gluing it down, I can just brush over the top of that, or as you often see me do, I put plastic wrap or saran wrap or cling film on the top, and I rub it in with a soft cloth or a soft tissue, and they will just disappear. So we're going to recreate our piece on here. Now, with any sort of stamping I do, I usually like to do it on something soft. This is a big bit of fun foam that I got in my local craft store. So I'm just going to put that on there just because it gives me something to press into that's got a slight give to it. Maybe not totally essential, but it helps, I feel. Also, it means I'm not stamping onto my surface behind. I have chosen black, don't worry. So this is the one I'm going to use as inspiration. Now, I've said it in the title and I've said in the intro, I'm using this as inspiration, okay? Once you've created one of these, the world is your oyster, because you will have learned or understood this technique. So I've done it in black. You could do this in any color you want. Think about it in green or sepia or coffee or blue. And instead of having insects, maybe the blue one has got fish, the green one's got flowers. Do you mean just play around with the themes that you want to use? When it comes to ink, I would normally reach for archival permanent ink, and it does need to be a permanent ink. I found if you're not using a permanent ink, it's going to smear when you put mediums on. Now, my archival jet black, I need to buy a new one because it's dying its death. There's not enough of it left. So I'm going to be using VersaFine Clair. I personally, personal comment on it, do not get along with this very well. It's a lovely, juicy ink pad that gives me real good detail. However, even though this is on tissue, this took at least 24 hours to dry before the ink wouldn't come off anymore. So I find that this is great if it's a real porous surface like paper or card. Anything that has even the hint of a sheen, I'm nervous about doing anything over the top because it comes off. But we're using this today because once this is done, I can leave it to one side. So this is what I'm going to use. So what I would say is, let's start to build this. Let's do it this way, actually, because I can move the piece of paper up and down. And this gives me the full width. So I'm going to start at the top here, and I can see there's text. So I'm literally going to use my text stamp straight away to come in and build this. Now, Tim Holtz, if he ever watched this video, Tim, I'd like to say, could we have some different designs in this? Because I really do love this stuff. However, I think there's an option for more versions of it. So again, I've done one. Now I'm going to come up and I'm going to put another piece in up here. Just to complete that. Now, as you heard me say, I do not have very much that is like a typewriter text. Now, once you've got ink on here, you do need to stamp it off. So I've just got a sheet of paper. I'm just going to come in and I'm going to clean my stuff off onto it, just so I'm not putting ink back into my holder all the time. So you won't see me doing this. I'll have this off to one side. I just wanted to share with you what I was actually doing. So if you're a new person to this, you can see the entire process. In you go. So what's next? Now I work as building in the background. So I've got blocks here that I need to consider. So let's come through. I know I've got those that are a block. I've got, that's not this one. I've got other text. I'm trying to find one specific stamp that I know I've got. Where are you? There you would be the last one, wouldn't you? It's always the last one. So I'm going to come in now and I'm going to put in stuff along here. Now I'm going to use this set here. Again, don't know where they come from. I just basically cannibalize everything. And I'm going to put this on my stamping block for no other reason. It's just easier to hold it. Now what I'm going to do this time is, because the text goes that way, I'm going to go in the opposite direction with this. And I'm doing that because it'll break that up. There's enough on there's enough space on here that I'm actually going to do it twice, because all we're doing is we're building an interesting background for what we want to create. So that's that one done. So it's just me stamping that off. I'll pop that back in there. Now I'm going to leave this one up at the top, because if I've got a space, I might use that other piece. So here we go. Where am I up to now? Where's that one gone? Right, let's put that up a bit. So I'm going to come in now with this one here. And this is going to kind of replicate this one for me. So let's put that down. I keep picking up the wrong part of the stamp. So I'm going to come in, stamp that there, and I think I'm going to stamp one next to it as well. So it looks like it's a bit larger of a table. There you go, that will do. So now, right, I did say I was going to use text. So I'm going to bring the smaller one back in, and this time I'm going to use the text as if there's writing on one of these panels. You see there's writing here. I don't have that stamp. So I'm going to come in. I'm going to put writing on there. And I'm going to repeat it below. So I now have one complete panel. Right. Let's see where we're up to. That needs something as a background, something, but there's going to be a butterfly there. So let's go back up to here. Now this is where these ones will come in. As I said, I think these are Tracy Fox, but I also said I believe these are now, I don't want to say discontinued, because I know Tracy is trying to find another supplier to create them, because they were beautiful stamps, and she did backing papers. I will actually put a link in the description box to my review of these, and just know that I'm sure they're out there somewhere, as in there's got to be existing stock somewhere. I know that there's no more being manufactured currently. Now I know I want to put something in here, and I know I need something in there, so I'm going to use this piece as well. Yeah, you'd be surprised which stamps you've got hidden away in your stash that you completely and utterly forgot about. And believe me, I speak from experience. I have stamps I come across occasionally. I'm like, oh, I forgot all about that one. It happens to be more often than not nowadays, but then I'm a man of a certain age, let's say that. Right, so we're beginning to get where I want to go. I've got this section to go. Now, this is dominated mainly by this big butterfly, but I would like to put something in here. Actually, that's sticking. I might stick that one in there, actually. A lot of my stamps over time have come from eBay auctions. I will periodically go into eBay and I will type in things like craft stamps, cling stamps, red rubber stamps, mounted stamps, any of those sort of words. And then when the selection comes up on eBay, I turn my buying option to auction. And then I look at the auctions that are going on. What I would say, however, oh, filthy fingers. What I would say, however, is always have a budget in mind that you would like to stay within. It is very, very easy. No, it's not put it. I'll put a number there later. It is very, very easy to overspend. You get carried away and all of a sudden you've bought or you've bid £100 or $100 across several sites going for different stamps you want. So just be cautious of that. That's all I'm saying. And as I said, it is very addictive, right? This looks like a nice in-string piece as well. Oh, that's way sticky. I would say I probably never use that stamp. I'm looking for here, to be honest with you. That's nice. So I don't mind having little bits of gaps because I know in the long run, I'm more than likely going to put in, well, I know I'm going to put in numbers. I do need to fill up this, so I thought I had something. That's the one I'm looking for, I think. Right, so see, things like this are just really, really useful. So let's pop you in there. I'm going to put you by there. That's a very bold one. Now, be aware, I mean, I'm going to have to choose something that's got quite a bold wing to go over the top of that. So, right, so I've just got this piece down here. And I'm wondering what I want to do. Let's have a look at the existing ones that I've got. Right, there's a little one in there I could use. And it's not that I'm avoiding repeating stuff. That might be a good one too. I'm just trying to be very conscious that I don't make it all look very samey. Right, let's go for this one. Now, I think I can get away with putting the same one there because that's not that close to the other one. And also no part of a butterfly is probably going to go over the back of that. It is so hot here, guys. So hot. Not something you normally hear from a Brit, but it is so hot, especially a Welsh Brit. So right, that looks like it fits perfectly in there. So let's put it in there. And I think I'll do it one more time down here. Right, I'm going to leave this space here because I know there's a big butterfly to go into that. Right, let's put that to one side. Right, so I've got the basis of my stuff down now. I could come in with big letters and put letters in if I wanted. I'm not going to because this is more about numbers than letters. So let's talk about putting insects in. So let's pull everything that's an insect. Let's pull out. Yeah, we'll look at words and numbers and that last of all. Right, now I tend to focus on the biggest stuff first. So I know I've got a really big butterfly there. I mean, it's obvious that that's my biggest butterfly. So let's get that little one down, shall we? Remember, this is our inspiration. I need a bigger stamp block for this one. I wouldn't be surprised if this isn't by a company called Visible Image. They're a Welsh stamp making company, although it's been a while. It's been a long while since I've owned the stamp, since I bought the stamp. So I'm going to put that down there. There are also foam stamps on the market. I mean, I say that because PM Artist Studio in America is who I design for. I'm fully aware of their styles as well. And I know there are large foam stamps there. I know because I own some of them. And also I've designed some of them. So I know they've got large butterflies out there. Right. So you can go to one side. Right, now that's my butterfly done. Now around here is this moth. So let's bring in that death head moth. I think that's what it was called, death head moth. Right, now he goes this way on now. This one goes off the page. I'm not going to put mine off the page. I am going to position it, however, so that it's kind of linking areas. It's probably not the straightest thing in the batch, but you know what, I'll deal with that. Because I don't know which bits of this are going to be torn up. I don't know which bits of this are going to be removed, things like that across the way. Okay, right, you're done. So I've got some beetles here. I think there's beetles in here. Some of there are beetles in here. Right, and I don't mean the singers, obviously. So now these beetles are quite small, beetles and bugs, but you may have beetles that are actually larger, or if you're someone who can actually sketch, you could sketch your own beetles in there. Right, there's another beetle. There's a beetle up here somewhere. Now, if you've got more than one large butterfly, obviously grab the butterflies as much as you want. Right, there's another stag beetle there. That is different to that one, okay. And that one's coming in over here somewhere. Now, because I don't have another large butterfly to hand, I do have other things, like I've got a large bee and I've got a dragonfly. So I'm going to use the large bee up here because it feels right to put an insect in up there. And I'm going to put this here. Remember, we're not at the final stage yet. There are definitely numbers and words and signatures and things that can go in here. And I also have a dragonfly, one of my favourite stamps, because everyone knows I love a dragonfly. I'm going to put the dragonfly in there. Now I don't want him in line with that, so I'm going to offset him slightly. Now I've missed a bit there, I don't mind. We'll just call that distressed. Let's not get hung up on stuff like that. Now, we haven't put any butterflies on here other than that one, so I can reach into my butterfly supplies. Have I got any more butterflies over here? Maybe I don't. Maybe that's the butterflies I pulled out. So I'm going to come in with a few butterflies. I don't want to put butterflies absolutely everywhere, but there are small areas that could definitely do with something. Like in there, seems to be the perfect place for something. And I can put a number underneath him. I really like this butterfly, so I'm going to use this butterfly again. I'm going to put one up by here. This feels like it needs something over here. Have I got a different style of butterfly or bee or... Oh, what's that? Okay, that looks like a honeybee or something. Let's stick a honeybee down here. Or it might be a fly. Right, I don't want to, sorry, can you see? I don't want to line things up, so either it needs to be there or there. And I feel there needs to be where it is. So currently we've got the foundation of our page done. Now, I've not done anything that you couldn't do yourself. Okay, absolutely, I've done everything. So I'm going to change my block. I want to get myself a smaller block. It'll just be easier to use. And I'll wipe off that ink before I get it over everything else. I've just got a smaller block. It's easier to work with. So I'm now going to come in and I'm going to have a look. Have I got signatures? I do have signatures and words. So I can't remember what company this was. If you just put in things like signature stamps, you're bound to come up with something, because I know there are signature stamps out there. I've got them. They're in my hand. So I'm just going to come in. Now this time I'm looking for places where it would make sense to have a signature. So I'm going to put one in there. Now this is upside down from the rest. Doesn't matter. Absolutely doesn't matter at all. Right, that's one signature. Do I want any other signature? No, but I do have the word received, which is actually a good word. I like the fact that it's a narrow word as well. So it means I can fit it into some gap like there. And right, I know that Tim Holtz has filed, but this is another version of the word filed. And I think I'm going to put, now I'm going to cover up the fact that that end of that wing isn't there by stamping over the top of it. That's filed. There's one more on here I think I'd like to use, and that's the word approved. Where do I want, actually I want to put it up there. I just want to turn this around so I'm not always doing it in the same orientation. Approved can come in up here. So I will warn you also, this is a bit of an addictive process. Knowing when to stop is a big question, especially for me because I get really carried away. Right, so I'm almost there with that. Now this is where I said I wanted to use some of these more ornate stamps. Like this is, it's called Sweet Butterfly Dreams, but I have no idea which set it's from. Let's use a slightly bigger one for this. But it's a really nice stamp, so it means that I can cover a really nice area. And it's not just a block stamp. So, the question is, where do I want to put it? I feel I want to put it across there. See, that's a really ornate stamp. I think this was a really old stamp set this came from. Just having a little look and see what was in there and what's on here. This is why I like these gel cases or jewel cases, because I can turn it around, because there's that stamp I really like. So let's use that somewhere. And I think it can go there. And I think I need to stop putting words on at the moment. Let's put that over there and not touch words. Let's come into numbers. Right, numbers. So I'm going to do numbers last. So I've got some of these postal franking stamps here. They're great. Or even just simply things like a circle. So I'm going to put a couple of those in, because it could be that I can use that to encompass something like a word or a number or just something like that. That's that one. So I like using the postal francs, and I know Tim Holtz has got those on quite a few of his sets. So I'm now looking for areas that need a little extra detail, like stamping within a stamp is a great place to put it. I also have this area here, but I know about that, and I'm going to put a number into it. Right. I'm wondering. I've got numbers here. I think I'm going to build a block of 2 numbers. And by building a block of 2 numbers, I mean I've put 2 numbers together into and made one stamp of it, because I can come in and actually use that, like down in that corner is a good place to put it. By there might be a good place to put it. I don't mind something like this being repeated. They can go back in the box. I'm coming on to the Tim Holtz numbers here. I want to say this might be from a set called Field Notes. If I'm correct in that, I think it's called Field Notes. I've got a few of his sets. I just don't remember what all of them are. So I'm going to pop in. Now, you'll also note with the original tissues, things are in horizontal and vertical. Okay, they're not on diagonals. I don't know whether that's just something that comes of the technique that the graphic designers used to build it, or whether that was a design choice. I don't know. Right, this number from number 34, I'm going to use that because that's in the original. I'm going to come in and find little spaces like it could sit in the middle of that. It could go by there. There's something, definitely needs something in there. Let's put one by there. Right, we're coming in on the last few things, guys. Right, a slightly longer number on this one. Hopefully you've been seeing all of this. I've kind of not been looking up. So I'm just going to put that in there. I'm going to put that down there. I think I'm going to put that in that space there. Now this may look really busy, but don't forget, what are you going to do with this? You're going to tear it up and use it in your own collage. So don't get hung up on the fact that it's a lot. It is a lot. Right, I've got the word identification here. Actually, I've got something, just seen something. It's the perfect size, but the thing is, can I get it in there is the question. Because remember, I'm looking through a viewfinder of my iPad. Fingers crossed that worked. I can accept that. I'm all right with that. Anything else in the quirky numbers? I feel this needs a little something here. Maybe just this little one. That's okay. Is there anywhere else needs a little something? You can go in by there. Well, actually, you can go by there. I want something by there, and then I need to call a halt because I will get really carried away. Let's put 3043 because that's not been used in this yet. Okay, I'm going to pause the camera for 2 seconds, just because first of all I need to clean up my hands. Secondly, I need to get all of this off here so you can actually then show you exactly what we've achieved. And I'm back. Okay, so let's just remind ourselves, this is the original Tim Holtz one. Okay, that's what it looked like. This is what inspired me to create what you've just seen me create, which is this. Now, it's not the same. This has definitely been inspired by this. Not taking that away from it, it's definitely inspired by that. Then there's the one that I created the other day, which is using very, very much the same stamps, but it looks slightly different because we're in different places. Then we've got this one, which would make another one. So what I would say, guys, is now you kind of know the layering technique. You know about choosing a tissue that's matte on one side. Don't stamp onto the shiny side. You can do. If you stamp onto the coated side, you're going to have to wait a few hours, maybe a few days for the permanent ink to totally dry. I use a permanent ink, usually the archival ones. Now, I followed through Tim's inspiration of insects. Just remember, pull whatever. So if I want to do an ocean theme, if I did all of this stamping in maybe blue and then put fish and seashells and that stamped on it, that gives me another one. Say I stamped it completely in maybe coffee color, and then I stamped mushrooms and leaves and stuff on that. That gives me an autumn theme. Say I stamped this in red, and then I put things in like parcels and presents and trees and cottages and candles. I've got Christmas. If I stamped this in, say, yellow, and put things like bunny rabbits and eggs and stuff on that, then I've got Easter. I mean, there are so many things. Now, I have stayed within, I think it's called monochromatic colors, in that I've used the same color to stamp everything. However, you could come in and let's go back to the one with the mushrooms. So say I wanted to stamp all of the text and that in the background. If I do it in orange, then I stamp the mushrooms in maybe brown and reds or stuff like that. Do you see what I'm going at? You make them your own. Just please remember the copyright thing. I am absolutely certain Ranger has these copyrighted. So that means if you're going to produce something, you can't use it on something you sell, and you can't use it for making a digital. However, I would say copyright changes per country. So I would just check, guys. You don't ever want to get done for copyright. And thank you for Tim for these. They're a great design. I do wish you did a wider variety of them, or maybe he hasn't, I've just not seen them about. But Tim Holtz inspired collage papers. These can now be torn up and used as I would any other collage paper. I've made these with gift wrap tissue, so if I'm using a matte gel medium or a liquid glue or a PVA, something that's wetter than a glue stick, what will happen is when I put this onto a piece of paper, the white will fade into the background and the image will come out. So guys, I hope you enjoyed that. It was just a little make for those on a budget, for those who have always wanted to play with these. But as I said, the price point was a little bit high, and also you didn't need all of that footage or meters of them. You basically just wanted to try it out, create your own, pull those rubber stamps out, pull the cling stamps out, just decide on the theme. Flowers, foliage, fish, birds, insects, butterflies, trees, just what stamps have you got, guys? Just use them. So, thank you for your patience. Thank you for enjoying the video. I'm Ceri the Crafter. That's Ceri the Crafter. Until next time, goodbye now.